Can we all, just once and for all, stop blaming our age for the reason why we're not losing fat? There, I said it. I put it out there. In case you did not capture that from the title of this video and from my opening statement, we are going to get into some things today. We're going to have some real talk about your age and fat loss and how much they really don't have to do with each other. Now, there are going to be some caveats to that, which I will explain as we're moving forward, but this is going to be all about losing fat in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. So if you like this topic, want to hear more about it, and don't want to miss an episode, because if this goes long, I am going to probably chop it up, but I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet today. And if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments, but make sure you are subscribed so that if I have to break it up, you don't miss part 2 of it, which I do think we're going to talk a little bit more about some like menopausal, postmenopausal, premenopausal things in the future. But first and foremost, we want to get this first obstacle out of the way. And that is the fact that I hear so many women come to me, whether I am talking to potential clients or just having a regular run-of-the-mill conversation with family members, where there's kind of this alluding to the fact that I am old, therefore XYZ things are not possible for me anymore. And I would like to just be the devil's advocate here and say that I have several clients that are over the age of 50 and they are doing just fine. Fat loss at 50, 60 and beyond is still possible. So even if you are in your 20s, 30s, and 40s listening to this, then just look at it as something to look forward to, that it doesn't end here. But this would also be a good opportunity for you to start changing your way of thinking now so that you don't run into this problem. Typically, it starts about 45 to 50, where I start hearing this more and more from women. So one of the first things that I would like to get out of the way is just that it is not your age that is getting in the way of your fat loss. It is the way that you think about your age that is getting in the way of fat loss. Are some bad habits probably in place that have stacked on over the last 20, 30, 40 years? Highly likely. Have they been on purpose? Probably not. Some of them are just things that you started doing years and years ago and you kept doing them. And because of the fact that the older we get a little bit more stubborn in our ways, not to mention the fact that it can be hard to shift when pointed at something that is saying that I was wrong before. So a lot of times we're more wrapped up in the amount of time that we've already put into our journey that it can make it either depressing to look forward to think like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this wrong the whole time, so I need to start completely over and move into, doing this the right way. And if it took me 20, 30 years to get to here, then how much longer is it going to take me to get to there? So that can be one of the things that gets in the way. Also, something that can get in the way is the fact that, like I said, when something is pointed out to us and we've been doing it a different way before, it can be really hard to step away from that way. Even when we're presented with all the facts for maybe why we were doing the best that we knew how to do in that moment, it is now time to shift and change and try a new direction. So what happens is either, we're either outwardly like directly offended by the information, or it's kind of an inward thing. And even when we know better, it's hard to do better because of the fact that our subconscious still wants to fight for, what it was that we were doing in the past. Because like I said, that would be your subconscious coming to terms with the fact that I was wrong, and our subconscious, our brain we don't like to be wrong. So we don't want to try something new, when we don't know for sure that it's going to work, because we have, 5, 10, 20 years under our belt of seeing things go wrong. So now we have even less faith in the new direction because all of our faith was in the old direction and that didn't work out. So why would it make a difference for us to shift and change? Now, with all those things being said, let's get into the science of it a little bit more, because that's just my little caveats as we lead into these things that, as I'm going to discuss, if something rubs you the wrong way a little bit, I just ask you to sit with it and think, if what you're doing right now hasn't worked, then what do you have to lose? Because we can give diets 30 tries, 30 years worth of tries. And then when we come across this new information about eating more and fixing my metabolism and all these things, we would like to just blame it on our age and say, well, that's probably not possible for me because fill in the blank reason. So one of the things to know right off the bat, if you've never watched any of my other videos before, is that A, I tend to ramble on a little bit, as I've just done there. But B, muscle equals metabolism. So you will hear me say that probably in every single video, because I want it to get embedded into your brain. I want that to be the new thing that you think about all the time when it comes to your metabolism. Because one of the things that happens is that as we tend to get older, we associate getting older with a slower metabolism. They do not have to go hand in hand. The reason why metabolisms tend to get slower is because of the sedentary nature that we take on as we get older. Think about it. Do you have a little kid in the house? Do you have grandkids like I do? If you see how much they just simply move around, you will know why the metabolism was a lot stronger and faster when you were younger. Now, the thing that you may not have known, though, is that between your skin and bones, there's muscle and there's fat. Obviously, there's a lot of other little things going on there too, like tendons and ligaments and such. But for now, we're going to talk about those two, fat and muscle. What happens is that right around the ripe old age of 20, yes, 20, that's when you actually started getting old. At the ripe old age of 20, unless you were doing something about it, what happened is that your metabolism was very high because your muscle mass amount was very high. It hit a peak right around age 25, and that's when, unbeknownst to you, things started getting a little bit harder. It just wasn't until the compound effect of another 20 years added on to that it became extremely noticeable. Up until then, it probably seemed like something that could be easily fixed. Now, what happens is that because you hit that peak of muscle mass at age 25, if you don't do anything about it, if you don't set things in place to preserve that muscle mass or to add on to the muscle mass after things like pregnancies and stuff that tend to reduce our muscle mass. So if at every pregnancy or with every diet you were losing some muscle mass and you never chose to actively rebuild it, or say that at age 25, everything was exactly the way that you wanted it, if you didn't put plans in motion to keep everything that way, which is lifting, doing some resistance training, and eating protein, eating a sufficient amount of protein, then what your body started doing was breaking down your muscle for more protein. Once your body starts breaking down muscle for protein, your physique changes. The composition of your body changes because it breaks down the muscle instead of breaking down the fat. What happens is that even if you stay the exact same weight between 25 and 35, that weight would look completely different because now you don't have that peak amount of muscle mass that you had at 25. So your body is doing a lot more work to maintain a more high fat composition. And because of that, even if you were the same weight, you would actually have to lose weight to look the way that you did at age 25. You would need to weigh less because of the fact that you now have a higher body fat percentage, even though your weight is still the same. So typically what happened for most of us is that from going on diets, we would lose some muscle, some fat, but then we would regain back mostly fat. And when we kept repeating this process and never actually replacing the muscle while also living a more sedentary lifestyle, not just because we're lazy, but because, I mean, we're full-blown adults. We have jobs to do, right? I'm sitting here now talking to you. So like I am being productive, but I am also not moving around the way that my grandson probably is right now. So when you take those things into consideration and you realize that the inactivity of your muscles sent a signal to your body to tear them down because muscles are very expensive to keep up. So when you don't have the things in place to keep that muscle, which is your protein, and you're not doing exercises that is telling your body, hey, I need that muscle, which is lifting weights, then your body starts tearing down the muscles. So the lack of engaging the muscles, the lack of feeding your body enough protein to keep the muscles means that muscle mass goes down and so does your metabolism. This is why when we get older, we tend to have a slower metabolism, but they aren't automatic. If you were doing things all along the way from the age of 25 to 35, from 35 to 45, you would not see near the slowdown of metabolism that you do then after 20 years of not engaging the muscles and not eating enough protein. But the thing is, regardless of how horrible all of that may have sounded, is that it is all fixable. You can totally rebuild muscle mass at any age. You can start eating protein tomorrow. You can start lifting weights today. You could be lifting weights while you're listening to me right now. So it's really not something that is just like, oh my gosh, end of the world. Yes, it can feel daunting, like I'm supposed to replace 20 years worth of muscle, but it's not as hard as it seems. Muscle can be replaced. Protein can be eaten. You can start focusing right now on rebuilding lost muscle mass and making sure that you increase your metabolism from here. Like I said, I am seeing 45, 50, 60-year-olds doing this every day right now. So hopefully that will help you to remove those excuses that may be making you feel like, because I'm older, or I've had injuries, I've had children, I'm postmenopausal, I'm premenopausal, I'm menopausal, that I cannot do these things. You can do them. It is still possible. It just takes the consistency and attention to the details that you may have skipped when you were younger. So hopefully that made a little bit of sense to you. Let me know in the comments, you guys, if this is something that you want to hear more of. I don't know. Maybe there's only 25-year-olds that are following me right now and they're like, stop listening 5 minutes in, probably 10 seconds in, because why would they care? Nothing is happening for them right now. And because it takes so long for it to catch up, most people don't start paying attention to this message until they are 45, 50 years old. So if you are younger than that, I commend you for sticking around with me for this long to learn about what your future might look like if you don't start doing something about it right now. If you are over the age of 40, 45 years old and this struck a chord with you, then I just say, I mean, you still have a choice. Do you want to be upset or, be depressed because it seems like such a long road? Or do you want to take back control and do something about it right now? Because you can. Either choice is yours. Either way, the ball is in your court, and you don't have to do either if you don't want to. If you're like, well, I guess I just lost muscle and I'm just going to deal with that, that's fine. Own it as a choice, but don't blame your age. All right. Hopefully that helped you guys. If you have questions about some specifics around losing fat in your 40s, 50s, and beyond, please let me know. I am right there with you, trying to do all the things to save my metabolism so that I can kind of sort of keep up with the grandkids, but I will probably never be as active as they are. So if you like this, give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe so that you don't miss next week's video, where we might go a little bit more into this topic, but I do have something else that I want to talk to you guys about. So for more information, check out these videos, and I'll see you guys on the next one.